Hey everyone, my name is Rob. Welcome back to my channel called The Movie Vault, where I want to talk to you guys about movies. Today I have these really awesome, three awesome books sent to me by Jonglez Publishing. These are some cool abandoned cinema books. So I have this one, and this one. So I'm going to kind of give you guys an overview of all of these here in the video today, and I'll have chapters and timestamps in the description if you want to see about a book in particular. Let's get into the video. First book up here is Abandoned Cinemas of the World. This one is, I guess not written, but like photographed by Simon Edelstein. This is a 2020 book. This is brand new this year. Simon has been taking photographs of abandoned cinemas for over 14 years, and he has visited 30 plus countries for this book here. This is really cool. Jonglez Publishing, hardback book there. Inside you're going to get that nice glossy finish there. As you can see, here's some pictures of like some cinemas in India and stuff. Really awesome. So I'm going to show you guys inside of the book here. A couple of cinemas stood out to me early on in the book. Was this Chicago cinema and then this London cinema as well. Really cool. There's featured write-ups throughout the book kind of on specific cinemas, which is really interesting to find out about these cinemas throughout the world. It's a really cool section on drive-in cinemas. You can see the old screens and stuff kind of just still standing where these drive-in cinemas used to be years ago. You can still see some of the old neon signage on the outside of some of the buildings. We have lots and lots of damaged, decaying, falling apart auditoriums covered in a whole big section here, and it's really interesting, fascinating to look at, but kind of sad to think about how these cinemas used to look years ago when they were fully functional and operational. We kind of get to the section I'm interested in. You guys know from work, we kind of get to see lots of projectors, film booths, old projectors, changeover systems, two projectors side by side, abandoned film cans all left in the projection booths of these cinemas. We get a really cool section next with the old ticket booths and the old ticket printing machines and stuff like that. It's really great to see all that stuff kind of still standing in some of these buildings. Speaking of the old neon signs earlier, we get this section of kind of newer up-to-date cinemas that still have the kind of neon signs, signage still going. Really cool, nice, bright and colourful. There's kind of a section on alternative usage now for some of these old cinemas, old theatres. As you can see here, surprisingly, some of them are actually used as churches and kind of place of worship. There's a nice section heading towards the end of a kind of a then and now comparison. You can see the buildings as they were in their kind of, you know, former glory and what they are now or how they're used now. Really interesting as well. So to kind of wrap up this one, Abandoned Cinemas of the World, Jonglez Publishing, Simon Edelstein. It's a really interesting book, especially like me, if you've worked in a cinema, if you're interested in old cinemas, abandoned buildings, kind of architecture, like kind of the history of cinema, or you know, how things used to be. It's a really interesting book. I will say there is a lot of pictures of India. Simon visited India as part of the book, you know, 30 plus countries as I mentioned, and there is a lot of like just a lot of photos of India as a section in here. And Ireland got in there once with the old Stella Cinema. It's a picture of the old Stella Cinema, which is now reopened as a new cinema, and we got in there once for Ireland. But yeah, really interesting book, Abandoned Cinemas of the World. That was the first one up. Let's jump on to the next one. So the next one up here, guys, this is a kind of really interesting, you know, this kind of size book. I like it. After the Final Curtain, the fall of the American movie theater. This one is kind of written, photographed by Matt Lambrose, and again, Jonglez Publishing. This is a hardback book. This is really interesting. There's a kind of an intro in here, and this features 22 different cinemas, movie theaters, whatever you want to call them, covered in this book. So let me jump into this, and I'm going to show you guys inside this book, and I've picked out some movie theaters or cinemas that stood out to me looking through this book. So once we get into the book, there's actually a small write-up on each cinema or theatre covered in the book. Really interesting, giving you kind of some of the history and looking at obviously how the buildings are now. As always, I'm interested in the old abandoned projection booths in these books. So we have some cool pictures from the Adams Theatre in New Jersey here of the twin changeover system projector there, and the old makeup bench sitting over to the side as well. The Uptown Theatre in Pennsylvania, we get to see the kind of abandoned auditorium. Looks really awesome. You can only imagine what this would have looked like when it was open at the time. The Embassy Theatre in New York, once again, we get to see the abandoned projection booth. We get to see some rewinders, projectors kind of covered in plastic there. We get to see this massive chandelier hanging and the abandoned auditorium and stuff as well. You really get the sense of grandness from this theatre. Lowe's King's Theatre in New York, we get to see the abandoned projection booth once again. We get to see the changeover system here. What's interesting about this photo to me is these are Christie projectors, and I actually worked on Christie projectors for a number of years in one of the cinemas I worked in. The Variety Theatre in Ohio once again stands out. We get to see the old projection booth there. Brings back a lot of memories for me. So to kind of round up this one, everyone, after the final curtain, the fall of the American movie theatre, this is like a 200-page book, really interesting. Some of the theatre is actually heading towards the end of the book. They don't actually look like they're in too bad condition. Once again, really interesting to see. For me, seeing the abandoned projectors and stuff and the auditoriums, definitely you get the kind of, you know, you get the feeling of what they once were, or what they, you know, used to be, could be if they were kind of restored and stuff. But again, interesting book, hardcover book here by Jonglez Publishing. The final book I want to talk to you guys once again today is Jonglez Publishing. This is After the Final Curtain, America's Abandoned Theatres. Once again, this is Matt Lambros who has done this one. Again, he's an architectural photographer. He's photographed stuff for over 10 years to give us that American movie theatre book and the America's Abandoned Theatres book as well. Once again, hardcover book, glossy pages inside. There's 20 theatres covered in this book, so once again I'm going to pick out some standouts to me and show you guys inside of the book. The Orpheum Theatre in Massachusetts, look at the size of this building. This is some great like outdoor photography. You really get the sense of the size of this old theatre here, really cool. The Colonial Theatre in Maine, there's some really cool photos here of like what looks to be an old storage room. These could be bits and pieces of chairs, they look like to me, really interesting, just kind of sitting there in the kind of daylight and then dust and dirt and covered full of stuff. Next one up is Lowe's Majestic Theatre in Connecticut. Look at the auditorium here, it looks really awesome. Once again, you can imagine this in its heyday, all done up full of people. Looks amazing. Another great looking auditorium here is Lowe's 46th Street Theatre in New York. This auditorium looks amazing. You can see kind of an older picture there and a newer picture. Looks unbelievable. So we have 192 pages jam-packed full of America's abandoned theatres here in this book. Really, really great stuff. If you're interested in theatre or stage or kind of behind the scenes of that, like theatre architecture, like building architecture, those ornate kind of mouldings, this is a fantastic book. You really get the feel of grandness from some of these old theatres, and especially with the movie theatre book as well, once again by Matt Lambros. He's done a fantastic job photographing these old abandoned cinemas and movie theatres here. So if you're interested in picking up any of these 3 books, I will have a link in the description, guys, if you want to pick them up. Off Jonglez Publishing is the name of the publisher who's put out these 3 fantastic books here. If you're interested in watching some more videos here on my channel, I'm going to leave some videos on screen here for you guys to check out. If you're interested in supporting the channel, I have a brand new Patreon account where you can get to see exclusive content that's not available here on my YouTube channel. You can buy a t-shirt from my t-shirt store. All the links are in the description for those 2 things. If you want to hit a like and subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next video.